Torry Tanner, of course, young lady ran in Lethbridge West. She stepped down when she had made what apparently at the time was a controversial video. Turns out it was the truth. Little problem with that. But the point being is that we want to have these conversations, and keep in mind, the people you're going to see tonight and talk to, some of them will make you feel uncomfortable. And what I want you to know is that uncomfortable feeling you have is your ability to listen and to learn, and to try to demonstrate the understanding that you would have if you were up here talking to you in the crowd. Okay, so just trying to give the lay of the land and what we would like to have. So let's welcome the first person we're going to have a conversation with tonight, Blaine Badiuk. So Blaine's a student at the University of Lethbridge. I know, brand new microphones. Blaine, I will introduce you. You can then maybe introduce me. But here's what I know. Blaine says she's transgender. I just want you to know that up front in case you didn't. And we have had many conversations. Our first interaction, maybe just move that out of your way. Stand. We've had many conversations. It started at the AGM. There was conversation there. There was conversation at the last town hall we had. And what I really want to get the conversation with you today is, you know, we hear this whole thing of parental rights, and we hear the protests. You read many of the hateful things that you're saying. And I thought maybe it'd be helpful for the audience to hear your perspective on what people are saying.
Yeah, no, thank you, Darrell. Thanks for the invite, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight and having this conversation. That's what we do on this side of the aisle. Right? My whole sketch is conversations, not cancellations. And I was really disappointed to see, the hatred that came from that side. And I have many friends in the community who have, been the receiver of hate after they've come out in support of Premier Smith's policies. And, put on a microscope on the education side of it. And I think it comes from the premise that, parents have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to do what's best for your children, and that means you have the leeway to make certain decisions on behalf of your children. And what we know is the vast majority of parents are going to be loving, supportive parents who just want what's best for their children. You might have questions, and that's okay. We shouldn't be canceling you because you have questions. You should have questions. Education is a partnership between the teacher, the student, and the parent, and you need to be involved in that conversation. So that's why parental rights comes with that responsibility as well.
So, give her a big, that's perfect, right? So when someone says to you, well, there's exceptions, and really kids who are 8 should be able to make their own decisions, or they're 12, or they're getting to be 14. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that those kids should be able to go to a third party and not involve the parent in the conversation, and then to have that third party validate those kids in a way that pulls them from their parents?
Absolutely not. Just absolutely not. We know that the number one indicator of successful children is an involved parent, ideally involved parents, and a supportive family around them. So there's any idea that any child should be able to make these massive decisions alone is ignoring that foundational principle. And I can understand where some people are worried that they may not have support at home. But why start on that premise when we have existing legislation to deal with in those rare cases? And I'm saying really rare. Because we're seeing an issue where a lot of teenagers are identifying as trans, and they may not actually be. And that worries me specifically. And having a parent will help that.
And do you think that comes from pressure? Do you think that's a peer pressure, or do you think that there is programming that's occurring in schools that give kids a premature idea of questioning their sexuality?
I think a little bit of both, maybe.
Sorry, a tough question,
Yeah.
right? But
I think that almost every teacher I know, and I was going to school to become a teacher, they're excellent educators and they follow the best practice they can, and we know. But there is a social pressure, definitely on the TikToks. That is the #1 area where I'm seeing, especially young teens, fall into the algorithms, and they just read all this stuff, and then they get teeth-pounded and told that this is who they are. And no, that's not what it is. They need any young person who is potentially having gender dysphoria. They need counseling first and foremost. That was a vital part of my transition, and still on. And then we can talk about the medical side of it. But in the schools, I think a lot of people don't know how to talk about this. We hear, for example, it's a different brain than your body. And being trans is way more than that. That is an oversimplification. And frankly, these young kids just can't fully understand that, nor should they be able to. And I think sometimes we're pushing things too early for these kids, that they can't really understand it. They're just kids.
So do you think the Premier, she made her statement, she's talked on the radio, you've heard it, you've processed it, you've talked to your friends about what her statements were. Do you think that she had a fair and reasonable position that satisfies the balance between today's society and parental responsibilities?
Yeah, well, we have to wait to see exactly what the legislation is. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm just saying what she said out loud.
Exactly, and I think specifically what she said on the Ryan Jesperson show just last week when asked about some stuff happening in the video, and she said she was concerned. I'm like, that's the Smith I know, that's the Smith that I love and want to be our premier, because that's not the intent of the policy. And the intent is, as she laid it out, was like, if that young person, that teenager specifically, is going to make that decision to come out to the rest of the school community, well, everyone else in the school community knows, well, you better believe that child's parent is going to find out one way or the other. And I would rather it come from that child in the first place than have it hear from hearsay. And I think that's the goal of the policy, and is to give them that support. Combined with the counseling pilot program, I think that's an excellent addition. We need that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that be rolled out.
Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. Blaine Badiuk. Thanks for coming, Blaine. So our next presenter is someone I just called out earlier, Torry Tanner. Torry, I just want you all to know that everybody who came